Good evening, everyone. Happy Easter. Jesus Christ is risen. So glad you could take a few minutes out of your day and spend it with me and our family as we desire to share hope and encourage you during these 30 days of hope that we have for the month of April. Well, tonight is going to be a fun night because this concludes our trilogy of conversations that we've had over the past few days. If you're online right now and you're watching me live, go ahead and comment. Let me know. I'd love to say hello to you. So glad that you're joining us and thankful to join us. But our trilogy of conversations that we've had over the past few days began on Good Friday, and we talked about with Kaylin what does it mean to be good? What does that word good mean? And what did Jesus actually do for us? So we heard from Kaylin and had a great conversation between her and I about that topic of good and Good Friday. Yesterday, part two of the conversation was about disappointment. Because Good Friday happened, Jesus died on the cross, and he did exactly what he came to do. But his disciples and many of the people around him were sad, were disappointed. They misunderstood Jesus' purpose and his plan, and because of that, they went to hiding. That's what happened on the Saturday. They went into hiding. They locked themselves in a room. They thought Jesus was going to restore the kingdom to Israel at that particular time, and he didn't. He's now dead. He's laying in the tomb. Their hope is lost. Hi, Carissa, and hi, Linda. Glad you could join me tonight. Thank you. So part three of the conversation is what the hope that actually springs from Jesus' resurrection. But before we get there, I want to share with you a video that my two youngest kids made. And this was a spur-of-the-moment question. Tell me what Easter, or tell me about Easter in your own words. So check this out from my two youngest boys about Easter.
Tell me the Easter story in your own words.
So the Easter story was whenever the 12 disciples went down to Jerusalem, they took a coat of a donkey and untied it and brought it and put it on a donkey. And when Jesus rode down to Jerusalem on a colt of a donkey, and the people were waving palm branches and putting down their cloaks. And
so it first began with Palm Sunday, or what we call Palm Sunday, where people all throughout the land of Egypt Jerusalem came around celebrating God and his son and what he's created. And he was riding on a donkey. He was riding on a donkey down the city, people throwing their cloaks on the ground and palm branches that they had cut off their field. They were throwing palm branches and their cloaks on the ground while Jesus passed into Jerusalem. Even whenever they just got a glimpse of him, they were so excited. Then whenever Jesus went into Jerusalem, the temple, they all went back home. I don't know how long later, but I would say a week later, he was tried of being the Son of God. And he said, I am the Son of God.
And then the Roman ruler, he made a decision of doing a trial of putting Jesus on the cross or Barabbas on the cross. But everybody said Jesus goes on. They're all chanting Barabbas, so Jesus had to carry the cross.
Jesus was crucified, put on the cross, And while Jesus was right before he died, there was an earthquake that shook the ground. The sky grew black. And right when Jesus died, he said, "Forgive them, God. They don't know what they're doing."
And then he was put into a tomb, and then 3 days later,
3 days later, he rose from the dead. Mary Magdala and 2 other of her friends came to pour spices on him. But whenever they got there, the stone was rolled away. And an angel appeared to them and said, "Go, tell Jesus' followers, tell them that he is risen."
he was out of the tomb alive, and he went to the 12 disciples at the house and showed them that he is risen from the dead.
Oh, I am speaking now. So my lovely wife came downstairs and said that I was muted. I forgot to take myself off mute. And so I just shared a beautiful message about what was meant to happen. But if you're still with me, I'll repeat it a little bit. The beautiful story of the resurrection of Jesus was not that Jesus came to make a perfect church or perfect Christians. Instead, he came to make the church perfect or Christians perfect. He came not to demand perfection out of us, but instead to help us walk in a way that came from his righteousness. That message of hope from him is about him telling us the most important part of what we're supposed to do. You see, the misunderstandings still happen. In fact, there are many misunderstandings between Christians and denominations and followers of Jesus right now. Misunderstandings of what Jesus is saying even happened immediately following the resurrection. In Acts chapter 1, the disciples asked Jesus, still thinking that he's going to return the kingdom to Israel at that time. They say, Lord, are you going to restore the kingdom to Israel? And Jesus says, no, that's not the most important thing. Instead, the most important thing is for you to go tell about me. You to go preach the good news. You to go make disciples. You to go teach people to obey the things I've commanded you. You to go. Don't worry about what I'm going to do. You see, we still have misunderstandings. We may be like my two boys right there, and when we talk about Jesus or we talk about theology or doctrine, we may still not get it right and perfect. But the question is, are we telling people about the hope of Jesus? I'm not going to get it right. And if you expect me or your pastor or people around you to get it perfect all the time, people are going to disappoint you. We get it wrong, we make mistakes. But the hope and the message of Jesus is that our mistakes aren't what God sees. Instead, he sees us through the righteousness of his Son. He sees us through what Jesus did on that cross and that resurrection power that he gave Jesus new life. And Jesus traded his righteousness for our sin. And because of that, we have such a great, amazing story of hope. And that hope needs to be shared. Because right now, we have people all around us, friends, family members, neighbors, people that we're going to see at the grocery store that need the message of hope. They need to know the good news about Jesus Christ. So, as we finish up this trilogy of Jesus' first, him dying for us in Romans chapter 5, but God demonstrates his love for us. While we are still sinners, he died for us. Moving on to the disappointment of the day, the silent Saturday, as some have called it. The disappointed understanding, the misunderstanding of what Jesus was going to do, his death, and now we can't fathom what's going on. Moving to the hope of the day of resurrection, the hope of Jesus being alive again. The challenge is to not just say, he is risen. It's not just to greet other Christ followers and say, he is risen indeed. The challenge of hope is to share the message of hope. To go, to live it, to speak it. To realize that we're not perfect, to realize others aren't either. But to realize that Jesus still speaks to us his love and his hope. So I challenge you with that tonight. Today, this morning, whenever you're watching this, I challenge you with you being the message of hope to those around you. You sharing the message of hope that Jesus has done for you. You might not get it perfect, but it's not about being perfect. It's about pointing people to the one who is perfect, to Jesus. Thank you for joining us tonight. Happy Easter. He is risen. I pray that you would experience hope tonight because of what Jesus has done. Maybe you're watching this tonight and and you say, I don't believe in Jesus. I don't know this Jesus the way you're talking about him. Isn't he just a figment of imagination? Isn't he a figure of fiction? Isn't he just a historical person from the past? Let me tell you, Jesus is real. There's all kinds of ways that we can talk about him and the reality of who he was as a historical person, the reality and the truth of what the Holy Scriptures say that we call the Old and New Testament. There's all kinds of ways that we can talk about him. But the most important way that I can tell you is that I know he's done real things for me. And I know that he'll do them for you. You might say, Josh, I want to check him out. I want to find out what he has to say. Well, let me encourage you. Start with the Gospel of John. Find a Bible. Download a Bible app. Start with the Gospel of John. And just read the words about Jesus. About who he was, about what he did. There's a message of hope in there for you. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a message in the comments or private message me, but we want to share the message of hope. And let me tell you that the message of hope has a foundation of Jesus. He is the one who can bring true hope. Have a great night.